Hey guys, I got a special guest today. We have Baz Porter. He is a renowned inspirational speaker and life coach who has helped thousands of people find peace in their lives. His story begins when he served as the British Army soldier, and after his service, he was diagnosed with PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. He overcame depression, anxiety, addiction, and homelessness. Despite the hardships Baz faced, something within him kept pushing forward, and his gift for helping others align with their true selves would soon come to be his calling. Baz uses his many gifts, including his divine channel, to support people from a higher perspective. Baz Porter's mission is to help you live your best life possible through coaching that will give you the tools to stop being stuck in your old patterns and start living purposely. He will guide you on how to bring more joy into your life by identifying what truly matters most so that you can make positive changes that last. That's his mission simply. Baz, how are we doing today?
Jordan, thank you very much for having me. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely excited to have you on the Clockedin podcast. Baz, tell me a little bit. Where'd your story start?
My story started a long time ago in London. I was born South London. I moved up to Bedford. I was a little rebel, and I joined the army at a very early age, where I thrived within the forces. My forces career took me around the world, many operational tours. Saw a lot of things, did a lot of, had a lot of experiences. Not all positive, but they shaped what I do today, because I use some of them experiences to help others in my life today.
Awesome. And when you were in the military, you said you entered young, so what age would that be for the people? And then what age did you leave?
I joined the forces at 15, and I did 9 years. So I was a boy soldier when I joined. I was actually the last junior leaders course to go through. So that was just under a year's course where you're taken from where you are and you're molded to be a soldier, and not just a boy, but be a specialist in your career, in your field, which was infantry originally.
Oh, wow. And this was because did you have some stuff going on that caused you to end up going there?
Yeah. I wasn't always a good boy as a kid. I got into the wrong crowd, and basically I got caught doing some naughty things.
Yeah.
Then naughty things led me to go to the police station, where I was told that I was going to prison or I was going to join the army. So I joined the forces, or they said the forces, one of the forces, which was Army, Air Force, Navy.
Yeah.
So I chose the army, and my father came down to sign all the paperwork. That happened in the May, and in the November, after passing a fitness test and their interview process to make sure I was actually sane and fit enough to join the forces, I was recruited into the forces, into the army for basic training.
Wow.
In 1995.
Wow, I didn't even know people could go in at 15.
Yeah, back then, with parents' consent and the right circumstances, they were still allowing you to go in. It was the last junior leaders course to go through. Now they turned it into foundational college, which when you leave school at the age of 16 in the UK, you can actually go into foundational college and do a year's course there. But they take you in a bit earlier, so you do your exams, your GCSEs or whatever that is over here in the forces, and they set aside schooling along with military regiments so they can intertwine everything. But it's not like it used to be. The political correctness of the world has taken over somewhat, and it's a rather different
experience.
Yeah.
Experience. So for you, you go 15 to 9 years would be 24.
Yes.
And were you inclined to want to leave, or was it you just it was your time?
It was my time. I'd been away from my battalion for about just over 5 years, doing other things with another regiment. And when I came back, the forces that I'd left to do something else specialized were not the same. The intake, the level of maturity had changed, and it was just my time to leave. And I'd seen enough and done enough to realize that, I'm done, and I had to step back. And in the April of 2004, I left, which was an incredible pivot for me, a transitional period, because I knew nothing else. All I'd known from the age of 15 is the forces structure. And when I left, there was no structure. I had no social skills, really. I didn't know I had PTSD at the time, but I did afterwards, consequently. I didn't have any saving financial structures or how to save money.
Were they at that time? Were they? Because I know in the U.S. they pay you every single year, and then people end up having it, but they don't usually have the financial skills to go, "What's next?"
Yeah, no, I did my 9 years. I could have done another 3 years and got my half pension. I didn't.
Oh wow!
So I didn't have a pension. So they just gave me a lump sum and off you go.
But
And I,
yeah, but when you have no idea
yeah,
what's going on in the world, because you've never had to say like you've never had to do any of those elements, so it causes a lot of
yeah,
no idea next steps. Yeah, I can
yeah,
imagine.
it's really bad in transition. Back then, it's not so much now. It's got better now. It's not perfect. Like any structure is not perfect. There's always room for improvement. But back then, when I left, I got given my medals, my red book, which is the achievement book, and the train fare home, and that was it. I didn't have anything else. And I did a month of security work for a friend of mine in Hereford, guarding cars, beating up people because they were trying to nick the cars, which is ironic because that's why I went in the army for anyway.
Yeah.
Nick engines out of cars. And I did a month of that. I was doing nights, 14 hours, long nights, very, very good money. But one morning, I think it was about May, end of May time, middle of May, I think it was. I just turned clicked. I can't do this anymore. I need to do something else. And
Yeah.
Jason, who was my boss at the time, I phoned him up and I said, Jace, I can't do this. This is not who I am now. I'm repeating these patterns. Can I have my check? I want to stop. And he was like, wow, okay. So he came to meet me, gave me my check. We said goodbye. I cashed the check. I went to the travel agents and I booked the nearest flight, the next flight out of the country, which was 4 hours, approximately 4.5 hours from when I booked it. And it was to Cyprus. It was the last seat on that plane to Cyprus. And I went home and I packed a bag, a rucksack, and I left the country. I sold my car at the airport for £200. I put my mobile phone in the bin and I disappeared. And I became whatever I wanted to be in Cyprus. I landed in Cyprus, went to Ayia Napa, which is party capital. And the first day I got there, I found a job selling water sports on the beach.
Yeah.
I was a nobody. I was quite fit and good looking back then. Age has caught up with me since then. And I started selling water sports. And I target big groups of people on the beach. And I'd made a living doing that. And then 2 or 3 months doing that, I started doing karaoke in a place called Bedrock, which I loved. Learned, how to present myself to stages. I mean, we were getting 4,000 or 5,000 people easily a night.
Oh wow!
It was the biggest karaoke bar in Europe at the time. I don't know what it is now. I haven't been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I slowly learned to play DJ. I learned to play music. And then for 7 years, I was there and I learned how to DJ. I became a very successful DJ. Did sets for Pioneer Records. I worked in Castle Club, Jasmine Inn, some notorious clubs out there. Loved it.
One sec, Baz. This is incredible that you just dropped your stuff and was
Yeah.
like, I'm out. I'm going to go hit the road. What were you thinking at that time? And what was it that you were really looking for? Was there like to fill that?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Jordan. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I couldn't find it where I was.
Yeah.
I just felt lost back then.
Yeah.
But I was a very positive. I still am a very positive person. I didn't want to give up, although since consequences, I have had times where I was like, I'm done, checking out. I had enough. But I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know. If anything, I was trying to find myself again, because I was told always to be one thing, but I didn't know what that was anymore. I felt as if the world didn't have a place for me, so I was trying to find my place.
Yeah.
For years I was like that. For the time in Cyprus, what I didn't realize was I was drinking more and taking more drugs, because that's the lifestyle that I was in. I went and you were just submersed in DJing, women. You know how that goes.
All around, yeah.
And you just drink, drugs, women, sex, and all the sun.
But it brings up a very good point. Mm-hmm. That our circumstances can definitely change who we can be at certain points.
100%. What I didn't realize was the reason behind that. I was suffering from what I then now is commonly known as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, it's very common with military personnel who retire, or even in services, to have flashbacks, nightmares, recurring anxiety, fear, and they manifest physically. You have cold sweats, you start having day terrors. So you emotionally, you go back to places, and sometimes you hallucinate, because you go back to these places you were in and you think you're back in these situations. It can become very, very draining.
And what, at this point, how many years have you been out of service?
7 years.
Wow. Like this stuff that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I didn't know what was going on, because I was suppressing all of this stuff through drink and drugs. And I started to turn yellow while I was in Cyprus. My whole system started to shut down. My liver started to fail. And I wasn't feeling well for a while. I went to the doctor eventually, because I don't like going to doctors. And I walked in there, I was this funny pasty yellow color. And he was like, oh dear. And he ran some tests to confirm what he already knew. He says, if you don't stop drinking, you're going to die. Your liver's failing. And you need to stop drinking today, now. You need to stop everything now. And I couldn't do that while I was in Cyprus.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't be that person. I was around it all. I was DJing. I was around, still in that environment. So I walked out. I booked a flight same day. It cost me a fortune. It cost me something like nearly $1,000 over that.
Oh, wow.
I think it was €1,000 over to get a flight out that same day. And it was literally, I need to leave now. And I was in a relationship at the time with a girl called Tracy, who, I didn't treat her very well at all. I was cheating on her with doing what I was doing. I was just being a bastard.
Yeah.
But I flew back with to see her She was in the UK. And I got help. I had to stop drinking. I had to sort of slow myself down. And it didn't work. When I stopped, all these nightmares came flooding in. The anxiety, the not knowing, or the uncertainty. I used to visualize going back to scenarios when I was in the forces.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what it was. No one told me. I didn't know about PTSD back then. So I just sort of like, oh, okay, well, this is uncomfortable, but I knew I had to stop drinking. And this went on for months. And I actually started going back into security work. I worked for Pleasure Beach in Blackpool, which is one of the big.
Now, in that time, when you bought that same day flight, where did you go?
I ended up in Blackpool. So I landed in Manchester.
Okay, so it's still the UK.
Yeah, I went back into the UK, and I ended up working in Blackpool, a place called Blackpool, which has a pleasure beach. Tried to live a normal life, whatever normal is, normality is. And the nightmares came back. Consequently, because of that, I lost my job because I couldn't function. I couldn't lead a normal life. I was, nighttime, I'd go to the bars and I'd be in the bar from, as soon as I finished work until it closed. My relationship suffered, and I was trying to make sense of everything going on. I didn't stop drinking then. I carried it on. Eventually, it caused me to lose my job, and my relationship broke down. She said she didn't want to be with me, which I completely understand. I was an asshole. No one wanted to know me. I felt worthless. I ended up going back to Hereford, which I had friends there, or people I knew at least. And a very old acquaintance of mine and a friend of mine, I remember phoning him and saying, look, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And he actually locked me in his house and sobered me up. He went through a major detox and helped me get off.
Oh my God.
Everything. I did a 6-month period, a 6-week period where he just locked me basically in a room virtually most of the day. And I went cold turkey, and he used to feed me and support me like that. And that's how I stopped drinking and the drugs. But it was extremely difficult. And then he said, I think you could have PTSD. I have it. And he explained to me what it was, because he's been through it. And I was like, this is what I'm going through. This is someone I can relate to. He's an old army friend of mine. And he helped me go through that transitional period and understand a lot of questions I had. But I didn't know really what it was at the full extent of this. And I was in and out of homelessness, and I'd ended up after that just going completely off the rails. It was just overwhelming. So I went completely off the reservation, went back to the drugs, went back to the drinking, ended up being homeless.
So real quick, so when you called him for the help, you went over there for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You guys ended up sobering up, and then it proceeded
went
to go back again.
Yeah. I fell off the wagon because I couldn't cope.
Yeah.
Ended up being, in that environment, doing the drugs. I ended up homeless. No one wanted to speak to me or know me, really. And I thought I was done. And then a daughter of a former colleague that passed away in the forces, I eventually linked up with her. She's a very, very good friend of mine. I was doing this gardening job that I was good at. I love gardening. It was very grounding for me, but I was still on that. Do I drink? Do I not drink? Trying to sober up. Didn't know what to do with my life, etc. But I love gardening. It helped me sort of ground myself and level myself. Ended up working for a very prominent person who gave me a home for 4 years, 2.5 years, nearly 3 years, I think it was, on their estate. That's a longer story. And then I ended up working for a public garden after that, open to the public, very prominent garden called Ralph Court Gardens in Bromyard. I had a spiritual awakening where I started to see things before I was being gifted as a kid. So I thought I was a medium, a healer. That was scary. And that's when my life fell apart for the last time.
What do you mean by see things? What is that?
I was
Is
seeing
this
spirit
different than the
energies. Yeah, spirit energies.
Really?
I began to get messages. It was a mess. And this was because of my trauma that opened me up to all this. I'd seen things as a kid I didn't want to see. I didn't know how to explain it. I knew things before they'd happen. That expanded in that 2018 period, or 2016 to 2017, that happened over extended period of time. Then this sort of platform opened up to me, and my boss in August of 2018 was shouting at me, and I just had enough. It wasn't me, he was just who he was. He came out shouting at everybody, not just me, but everybody. I was in charge, so I got the front of it. One day I think I was digging up some onions in the vegetable garden. He came out and he was shouting at me, "Why are you digging up these onions? I haven't told you to dig up." I said, I'm the head gardener here. This is what you need to do, because it's going to rain tomorrow. If it rains and water gets in these onions, they'll spoil, waste crop. Something clicked in me. They just said, actually, I'm done being shouted at. I'm done being treated like this. You're not worth my time. And I didn't say anything to him. I said, excuse me. And I pulled my phone out and I emailed him my resignation in front of him. And he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm emailing you. Wait 1 minute. I'll tell you what I'm doing afterwards. Send. So that if you go and check your computer now, you'll see my immediate resignation. Thank you very much for your time, but you obviously don't value who I am or anything that I do. I'll be seeing you. Picked up my fork and left.
That's powerful, because it gives everyone this moment that even when they're facing hardship, even when they're in a bad situation, even when they're in anything, you always have control to say, I'm done.
Yeah, it's a decision.
I'm done.
It's a decision, and that's it. And then that week, this is going to blow your mind. I lost my house where I was living. My car broke down. So my house and my house where I was living and my car broke down. Gone.
Wow.
So I'm living with a rucksack again. Don't know what I'm going to do. My friend's daughter phones me up. She said, I hear you're in a bad way. Come and stay. I've got a spare bed. Come and stay with me. So I did. My old boss from the military phoned me. She said, I hear you. What's going on? Are you okay? Her name's Mel. She's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm okay. I'm going through a tough spot, etc. Can we meet? Did that. In the meantime, I'm still going through a spiritual awakening period. So I'm scared. I'm very vulnerable. I'm raw. I'm scared. And I keep getting this thing to travel.
Yeah.
And I've got no bloody money. How am I going to travel? Well, no, really? Anyway, I come up with this concept to earn enough money to start helping people. So I set up a Facebook page and I start helping people on the phone for, believe it or not, $11. And I do $11 per session. And I spend hours just doing this, giving people advice, spiritual advice, anything. And I earned enough to buy a plane ticket to New York. And I left the UK on January the 6th, 2019, with a plane ticket to New York and $360 in my back pocket. And I traveled the world on donations.
No way.
Yeah.
And this is why I wanted to ask, come on, because these stories are just incredible. It shows you what's possible. So continue on.
And until you actually step into that and start trusting what you are and who you are, you don't know your limits. You don't know what's possible. I did 33 states in 3 months on donations. I ended up in Los Angeles, and I've met hundreds, probably thousands of people during that period of time.
Of course.
And I did it on Greyhound buses, on Amtrak, hitchhiking, you name it. It was incredible. And I eventually ended up in Los Angeles of Angels, where I met a person I now call my wife and best friend. It took me 3 days. She was a +1 with a client of mine at a restaurant. We met, we had 3 magical days, and I flew to Australia. So we got to know each other long distance while I was traveling around Australia, doing what I was doing in the US there, helping people.
And you had this Australia trip was already decided.
Yeah, I had to, because of my visa ran out in the US, I could not overstay that visa. It's just a palaver.
Okay.
There's too much hassle with it. I was like, I don't care. I've got to leave.
I'm out. Let's keep moving.
Yeah. And this relationship was blooming with Nicola. It bloomed so much, we both decided that I would come back to the US, still not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I started to expand my business while I was in the US, and we got to know each other more. We actually ended up getting married just before COVID in September in Orcas Island in Washington State. And a good friend of mine gifted me that trip, all divinely timed.
Yeah.
Gerard Butler came to my wedding, completely coincidental, but he came to my wedding. Honor, I had coffee with Gerard Butler 10 minutes before I went to my wedding.
That's incredible.
And then I got married, and then COVID happened, and our relationship was tested during that time. We thrived, and I expanded my business. I ended up becoming a platinum partner this year with Tony Robbins, and that community was absolutely amazing. Fully support that. And now I'm a part of Unblinded community with Sean Callagher. He's also connected to Tony Robbins in that world. The people that I've met that I call my friends and mentors have changed my life and turned me around. People like Tony Robbins, people like Sean, and many, many others have completely transformed my outlook on life, and they support many, many others doing what I'm very passionate about, which is transforming people's lives using my own experiences and putting them into reality and actioning these things. Because I remember a time where I didn't think it was possible. I remember the time where, the suicidal thoughts, the depression, the drinking, the not seeing a way out. I'm truly living proof that the impossible becomes possible with a bit of belief, and knowing that whatever you're going to, it's never the end. It's just the beginning of a new journey. And within the COVID period, I became an author. Using Trauma to Thrive was released. It's on Amazon, etc. We're going to be doing a re-release of that, a second edition, because some things have changed. I want to expand what I'm doing with a foundation called A Million Dreams, expand the coaching to help other people with immersions. Well, it's changed. There's many things going off at the moment. So we're in this transformational period once again, because business always is transformed. As we transform as people, we transform everything around us, and the world transforms. To keep up with that, it's all about self-mastery, knowing what we want, adhering to it, adding value, contributing to others, having the connections, building out and helping support other people in their ventures, also remembering where we are as people and remain humble with it, because people go on.
Absolutely. I did have a couple points that I wanted to bring up for the book. When you wrote that, the Trauma to Thrive.
Yeah.
Why during that time did you?
I believe the message was throughout COVID that people were lost. People were very, very much living in fear in the world. You had all this panic, and still do to some respects. And this isn't political. I'm not here for political things.
Yeah. No, I know. I completely agree. I've been seeing the same thing.
They're in fear. They don't know what to do or how to react. They're getting told one thing, they're believing another. There's no substance of truth behind it, or there's an element of. They need clarity within themselves to make an informed decision, and they're not getting that.
Yeah.
And the message from the book was, you have the clarity, look within. It's possible. Believe in yourself and open yourself up to larger things and bigger prospects within your life, and it becomes possible. The impossible is possible. That's why I did the book. And I want to add to that and add more value with people by adding and expanding my global vision with a social impact program to merge ecosystems internationally with major organizations for charitable causes. That's a deeper subject, and that's in transition now, where we're actually scaling up and we're helping members partner up with others and merging things and doing some really informative transformational stuff, but for the people, not just for the members.
For the groups. And we were going to dive into that next, because obviously the book is, everyone's got to check out the book. What is it with the Million Dreams Foundation? I know we've talked about this in New Jersey. I know you were hinting towards it a little bit, but really elaborate and kind of open the door on what that is.
A Million Dreams Foundation is designed to be for the members, run by the members, for the people, cutting out the middlemen and the corruption between the middlemen, and removing the politics in the world, and creating education, mental health support, financial support, food support for the people who need it, and getting the funding to them directly. This is a model for partnering up with major corporations where they sell memberships to their members, the members get their services at a discounted rate. So they get the membership they pay into the Million Dreams back. The members and the corporate partners get media coverage and social coverage, so they look good in front of everybody for supporting other charitable organizations. The charities we partner up with provide the finance for their people. So like Feed America, Help for Heroes, Walking with Wounded, Gary Sinise Foundation, to name a few. These are the people I'm in talks now with to partner up, to elaborate and expand on what they're doing to get a positive message out and support for where it's actually needed, not for where the finance ended up going to the people. So you cut out the bullshit, excuse my language, in the middle of it to empower people rather than the people behind the message.
Okay. And when you say remove the middle piece, what are you really
every charitable organization is flawed because they're always looking for funding. With this, this is a funded project by the members for the members. So as long as there's memberships always, which there's no reason why there shouldn't be, there will always be finance being provided. This is not a charitable organization, but it funds charities. The charities always have that middle overhead where they're always looking for funding to find out, to do something else, to fund something.
Yeah, the next project. Yeah.
This creates none of that. It actually supports them projects to constantly give funding in.
Yeah.
But everybody wins. The members win because they get the corporate companies to provide the discounts, so they get the membership back. The corporate companies win because they can get the membership, the finances back from the tax rebates, because it's all going to charity. They also get the publicity and look good in public eye. This is a social impact program.
Yeah.
And it's not for me, it's actually to leave a legacy for the people, to give a foundation and a solid base for their future.
Yeah. Baz.
Yeah.
How do you, through your experience, obviously you've had a multitude of different, let's call them lives, through your military life, childhood life, the travel life, the homelessness, to where you are today as a life coach and all of that. How do you deal with identity and who you are and what you see yourself as? The reason I bring this up is because there's a lot of people who go, I'm a doctor. And they're just like, you're just the doctor. You're not a dad, any of that. And I laugh, and I'm glad you laugh too, because it is, it's an issue that a lot of us have where we provide too much to it.
I believe I'm going to use the old cliche, we identify with identities too much. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all have our special gifts. We all do certain things to show up in different ways for people. But we must remember what our talents are, actually can provide a passion for us and empower others. I use my talents now through my life experience to help others, because I truly know of a better way, coming from honor into the rags and doing all that and into living my purpose and dream. I don't want to be, I'm not above anybody, but I'm the same as you, but I have a story that I've applied to help others.
Yeah.
And I if you want to identify me or try and put me in a box, I'm a life strategist. I can't be a life coach. I don't believe in that label. But I take people and meet people exactly where they are and guide them and support them through the journey of level them up to the next level or wherever they want to. There isn't a limit. The belief is the limit.
Yeah. And exactly. And at that unblinded immersion in New Jersey, I saw Baz working with different individuals, and we were seeing breakthroughs happen that it triggered me to like, wow, I got to hear more about Baz and what Baz is up to. And it's definitely something to see, something to be around.
It's really good to watch people transform in that way as well. It's not a job, this is a passion, and I actually love doing this. It changes people internally first, and then the external manifestations happen. And there's many ways of doing that. And I don't know what to identify with apart from I'm a human with passion. That's how I identify. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant answer, because it allows us to not be placed in these boxes and have these limitations of, if Baz was in the box of I'm just a military guy, he would still be there. But I bring this up just so that the audience can sit there and reflect where they're at today and meet them at their point and be like, maybe they want to do something different, but just because you've been doing something for 9 years, 10 years doesn't mean you got to keep doing it.
No, you can change at any point. And the change starts with a decision. You get the choice. So if you want to change, make a decision today and then follow it up. Don't just decide and go, that's it, because there's more to come afterwards. Decide and then commit to it, but also take the action and follow it up. If you need support, reach out to someone that can give you that support.
Yeah.
but be choosy who you associate with. That's all I will
Yeah.
say, because we've all had bad experiences with people. Don't be one of them people. Be choosy. Know your own value.
Yeah. And let's dive into that real quick, and then we'll wind this thing
Mhm.
down. Choosing the people that you're with. I think I know what you're talking about a little bit, but just dive into it a little bit. Does that mean that my mom can still be my therapist
Yeah.
as well as my life coach and this and that and that? It's interesting because I see it with a lot of parents.
Yeah.
They place them in this um, unlimited box where they can solve any problem, and that might be true when you're 3 years old. That
Mhm.
might be true when you're 5 years old. But when you get up to 13, things change.
Yeah. Yeah. Family will always be family. And
Absolutely.
regardless of what happens, you will always have a family. You may not see eye to eye all the time, but they are truly your family. When you are choosing someone to help support you, make sure that number one, you know before you go somewhere, this is an investment in yourself. And the investment in yourself is something that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life. It's not just for 6 weeks or 6 months or a year, whatever you decide to do. This is a transformation that's going to change your life. And it's an investment, not just something you're going to do and just put your half of yourself into. So with saying that, be choosy who you surround yourself with, because it's who you surround yourself with you eventually end up being to become. So be wary where your standards are. If you're going to surround yourself with alcoholics, you're going to become an alcoholic. Trust me, I know all about that.
Yeah.
You surround yourself with positive people and aspiring people with passion, have vision, and have not necessarily financial wealth, but wealth as in they feel good about themselves. That's who you can become. So be mindful of where you are within your peers, because that's eventually what you'll become.
Yeah. And to give an example of anyone who wants to, it doesn't have to be, it's not who your best friend is. It's not who you hang out with. It's who you spend that most time with.
Yep.
So that is very key. So one of the ways I do that is I have podcasts like this where I get to talk to cool people and I get the inspirational people. My girlfriend actually made the comment. She goes, I told her about the different people that I've been having on the last couple of weeks. And she goes, Jordan, these are inspirational people.
Yeah.
They're becoming inspirational.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're working on it. We're working on it. But I bring up that point that you can create whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like everyone can do it.
It's true. And we're all living proof of that at certain levels. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm working towards it. I'm not where I was because I don't want to be there. I'm not that person. And I'm sure, Jordan, you're not that person going back a few years ago. We evolve and we change. And that's the point. We evolve and we change with it. The resistance will always be there. It depends on how much we want this before we actually get it.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Absolutely. Awesome. And Baz, where can people find you? And if you have one last quote to leave the people with, what do you think it is?
Start living your purpose, but live it with passion, and you'll truly find happiness. Look within, it's there. And if you want to find me, bazporter.com, Twitter, Facebook, just type in Baz Porter. I'm the ugly one in the corner, and that'll be me. But yeah,
I'll add the links to the
perfect.
description as well. And Baz, this has been an absolute pleasure to hear your story from everywhere to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in West Palm Beach
Yes,
very soon.
very much so.